So I'm a production assistant at Penguin Random House Children's.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this week's interview we have Rebecca Hyden, who is a production assistant at Penguin Random House Children's. Rebecca has since been promoted, so many congrats to her, but this video highlights what it was like to be a production assistant, so was correct at time of filming.
I studied English literature at the University of Southampton. I absolutely loved my course, I really enjoyed it. Whilst I was there, I discovered what publishing was and decided that's what I wanted to go into. So as soon as I graduated, before I graduated even, I started applying for jobs and internships, but I didn't really have much luck, unfortunately. So I bounced about in jobs that I wasn't that interested in. I managed to get an internship in a management company in Luxembourg. I don't speak any other languages, so fortunately for me, their working language was English. So I worked there over the summer and continued applying for jobs, but without much luck again. I realised being in Birmingham, which is where I'm from, opportunities for publishing houses are quite limited, so I decided to just apply for any job I could get in London. I started working as a communications and coordinations assistant at Lush, which was a bit of recruitment, HR work and internal marketing as well. Whilst I was there, I also finally, after a couple of years of applying, got on to the Penguin Random House work experience, and I was based in children's in Puffin editorial, which I absolutely loved it. And whilst you're there, you're put into different meetings with other departments, so even if you're based in editorial, you can find out what publicity, rights, production and other departments do, which is really helpful, especially with departments that don't tend to have work experience placements. Whilst I was there, I discovered production, found it really interesting. At the time there were 3 production assistant roles being advertised, so I went for one of them and got it. So I've been a production assistant for almost 2 years now. So I'm a production assistant at Penguin Random House Children's. I work on the backlist of Puffin and Random House. Specifically, I work on Jeff Kinney's Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Robin Stevens' Murder Most Unladylike, Roald Dahl. I also work on Tom Fletcher's colour books. On a day-to-day basis, my day can be very varied. I can be doing anything from ordering mono and colour titles, costing special sales, or ordering sprayed edge samples for design if we're updating the next edition, or printing. I can be doing anything from taking in text corrections to the typesetter, forwarding them onto the printer, and that can be something as small as a missing letter or comma to massive sensitivity changes in our books. I also cost and order co-editions, so books in a different language, and I also work with our non-trade teams, costing special sales, ordering those. That's like slipcases, special editions and anything from there onwards. As I work in children's, we do a lot of colour as well as mono. I work with printers all over the world, from Australia to China to India, so my inbox doesn't really sleep very much. I also answer queries from other departments, especially editorial and design, talk to both editorial and design about if we're changing any finishes, updating any covers, making any corrections, or adding books into lists in the end ads of books for a series, things like that. I would say the main skills for a production assistant is being able to prioritise your workload and organisation. As a production assistant, you're not really someone's assistant so much. You are very much in charge of managing your own workload and titles, and it's down to you to manage your time. It's, as I said before, it's my inbox doesn't really sleep. It's a very busy job, so you have to stay on top of your workload to make sure everything's being ticked off and nothing's getting missed. And as I work on a lot of across backlist work, there are a lot of titles that I have to keep an eye on and make sure corrections are being taken in when they're supposed to, cover updates, things like that. Very busy, but I would say if you're organised, you're good at prioritising tasks, and you have a good eye for detail, then you're sorted. So since lockdown 1, I've found that I've actually had more meetings than usual. I think everyone else it seems to have had the opposite effect on, but I've now got loads of meetings, and we have a daily catch up with the Puffin team where the managers just feedback any updates or information, whether that's about suppliers or company as general, and then I have 2 meetings a week with the reprint team. There are 3 assistants in Puffin, and one of our managers takes point on sort of allocating work, things like that, and we just chat, see who is working on what and making sure that everyone's workloads are okay. I have a catch up with my line manager once a week as well, and also one of our senior managers once a week, which is really good. Again, just discussing workload, if I'm working on anything interesting, anything challenging, any questions I have. We do have a covers meeting once a week with design, editorial, marketing, sort of everyone, where design will bring the covers for the frontlist titles or any reissues, and there will be decisions made then on finishes, illustrators, sort of anything. I don't contribute anything really to those meetings, but I really like to go along and watch, especially now that they're on Zoom. I also am will start to attend more frontlist titles now that I've started working on those a bit more. So there are several more meetings that I don't really know much about, but I'm excited to start going to them. I would say getting in advances, whether that's me or another member of my team. It's really amazing to see months or even sometimes longer, like years of hard work, and see the end product. And some of the advances we get are just incredible, and it's really nice how excited everyone gets about it. Saying that, I think the team I work with is also one of the favourite parts of my job. They're such a great team, so friendly. Everyone just knows so much about production, and it's great being able to just pick people's brains about problems and have a team that's really collaborative. You can always rely on them to help if you're ever stuck on anything, and share ideas and any questions as well. As an employee of Penguin Random House, you are allowed to visit the archives, which are where we keep all of the books we've ever printed, 1 copy of every edition, new edition, first printing, everything. And they have things from books to manuscripts to original artwork to contracts for authors, and you get to see like notes an editor would give an author on a manuscript back way before like email existed. There are some really old books there which are just beautiful. Whilst I was there we found an old order form for Penguin back when it in like 40s or something, when you had to write in to order 1 book because they only had 1 copy of each book in the store. So that was really interesting. You get to go there for a whole day, and it's so much fun. I think there are a few videos about the archives on YouTube, but they don't show you everything. But yeah, it's absolutely massive and absolutely incredible. Where do I begin? I have no idea how an agent decides whether or not to take on an author. I don't know what a literary agent really does. I understand at a very, very basic level, but I have no idea how they acquire a book from an author or how they pitch that book to editors and publishing houses. I should probably find out about it, but I find it's part of the publishing industry that I have nothing to do with at all. I would love to know more about that sort of side of it. I mean, a big one would obviously be things like make an equal and fair society, world peace, eliminates world hunger, things like that. I think a selfish one for me would be to be able to travel in time. I'd love to be able to go and see some of my favourite bands live before they split up or in their prime. I'd love to have gone to see the Beatles and Queen and Fleetwood Mac and go to like Woodstock Festival or the first ever Glastonbury Festival. Things like that would be really incredible. I think a lot of people don't understand what production do or that my job exists. I know I used to think that the editor sent the book to print, which is completely incorrect. It's quite an overlooked department, unfortunately, and I think people are understanding it a bit more now, but I think people forget that production is still a creative aspect to the industry. There are creative parts to it. I think often people think production and inventory are one and the same when we're really not. People get confused with what we do specifically. Even people who have worked in publishing for years don't quite understand what we do, but it's great to see that there is more discussion online. I would say it's how busy the job is. There's not really many quiet periods. We're sort of preparing for Christmas in July and things like that, and usually preparing for Easter before Christmas has even come around. As I've said before, I get emails overnight. I usually come into about 20 or more emails a day. It is a lot of work to keep on top of, but I really enjoy it. And I think staying organised and on top of my work can be a challenge at times, and you don't want to let anything slip at any point. I would say keep going. The publishing industry is really competitive, even more so now. Persevere, you will get there eventually. But I'd say for production specifically, do some research online, look at your bookshelves, look at the finishes on the books. If you've ever picked up a book because of the cover, have a look at why. Feel for the different finishes. I know in my second interview for this role, I was handed two different books and asked to talk about what sort of things would cost more on each book and why, and I don't know how I managed to answer that, but I did. But I'd also say just talk to people online. Most people in the publishing industry have been there where they've struggled to get in, it's taken a long time, and everyone is very willing to help. And everyone is so nice, genuinely nice. They will be willing to help. There are people who offer to read over CVs and cover letters, get involved online, whether that's on Twitter, Bookstagram, or even with the SYP, Society of Young Publishers, and just speak to people, network. I know everyone says it, but it does really help, and it helps you understand what you're applying for as well. I think when you understand the role, it can really help your application. I would have to go with The Salt Bath by Raynor Winn. It's a non-fiction book about Raynor and her husband Moth. They've been married for 32 years, and all of a sudden they find out they're losing their farm, which is their income as well as their home. And in the same week, Moth is diagnosed with a terminal illness, and it's something that's going to affect his muscles and functions, and he will deteriorate over time. And sort of with nothing left to lose, they decide to walk the 630 miles southwest coast called the Salt Path. It's quite something to embark upon at that point, and I think it really challenges your ideas on homelessness and how it doesn't just touch certain people in society, it can happen to everyone. It can happen very suddenly and be completely out of your control, and I think the way they overcome challenges and animosity throughout their travels and just persevere is just incredible. It's quite an inspiring book.
Hope you found that useful, and see you next week.